Why Invincible looks so mediocre. Invincible is a series that has won over comic fans with its shocking story and unexpected twists, but there's something about the animation that just doesn't fully convince people. Viewers aren't sold on the stiff animation, which at times even looks mediocre for an Amazon production. Today we'll break down the problems behind Invincible's production, things like budget, lack of staff, and certain artistic decisions that can turn a production into the internet's punching bag. First things first, one of the main issues with Invincible's animation has to do with the budget. The show's official cost isn't very clear, but based on statements from the showrunner about how the series barely has any marketing, and taking into account some estimates, people speculate the cost per episode is around $2.5 to $3 million, roughly about a quarter of the cost of each episode of The Boys, and many millions away from shows like Arcane, for example, which had a budget of $250 million. On top of that, the series has high-profile voice actors like J.K. Simmons, Mark Hamill, and more recently Aaron Paul, names that take a big slice of that pie. These actors have worked on major animated projects, J.K. Simmons in The Legend of Korra, Hamill as the iconic voice of the Joker, but their talent obviously isn't cheap. We're talking about J. Jonah Jameson and Luke Skywalker, and also Jesse Pinkman. As a result, a big portion of the budget goes to paying those salaries, leaving less money for the actual animation. It's speculated that at least the main voice cast makes around $90,000 a year, and considering J.K. Simmons has a net worth of $20 million, they might be paid even more. This means the animation team has to do more with less, and that's where the problems we care about really begin. It turns out a sad consequence of the low budget, in quotes, is the size of the animation staff. In the first season of Invincible, the team started with 15 storyboard artists and 6 cleanup artists, but as the season went on, those numbers kept dropping, until in the finale there were only 4 storyboarders and a single cleanup artist, 1. Just so you get an idea, the Adam Eve special had 7 storyboarders and 9 cleanup artists, which explains the huge difference in quality between the two. To give you another reference point, episodic shows like Adventure Time, which are only 11 minutes long, usually have at least 2 storyboarders and 2 cleanup artists, numbers that can increase for special episodes or action sequences, where they often hire freelancer teams to boost the workforce for a short time. So it's obvious the Invincible team was overloaded. Take this scene as an example. This is one of the few times we get fluid, dynamic animation in an Invincible episode, and it happens in the early episodes of Season 1, when Mark faces the Flaxons for the first time alongside the teen team. Compare that to the final fight between Invincible and Omni-Man, and you'll notice the massive difference in quality between the beginning and the end of the series, something that directly connects to what I mentioned earlier. But what exactly do these artists do, and why are they the heart of animation? Storyboard artists turn the script into images, creating the visual blueprint of each episode. They decide framing and camera movement, crucial to determining how dynamic a scene feels, especially in action sequences. Meanwhile, cleanup artists are the ones who clean up the storyboard to create the final product. They refine the drawings, do the line art, and make sure the animation is fluid and visually appealing. If either of these two teams is too small, the quality will obviously suffer. On top of that, time also worked against Invincible. A storyboard artist revealed on TikTok that while they were working on the Adam Eve special, they were also developing seasons 2 and 3 of the series, all of that in a single year. Naturally, to cut down on work time, they likely chose to just move a PNG around the screen. Also, as you can imagine, the animation doesn't fall on a single team. In this case, it's spread across 3 different studios: Maven Image Platform, Annie for You, and Tiger Animation, all supervised by Amazon Studios. You might know Maven Image Platform from Batman The Long Halloween and the current Harley Quinn series. Annie for You has contributed to shows like Teen Titans Go and Marvel's Spider-Man. That means it wasn't just one team, but multiple teams being pushed under these conditions at the same time, which could naturally create inconsistencies in animation quality from one episode to another. So, getting to the point, what exactly makes Invincible's animation feel mediocre, and how could we fix it? First, the lack of compositing. If the series made better use of light, shadows, and visual effects like reflections or particles, it would look far more appealing. In Attack on Titan, for example, a big part of the visual beauty didn't really come from the drawing quality itself, but from the use of particles and sunlight reflections, which made the show look way better without requiring a huge effort from animators. Things like smoke and ash particles added a lot to immersion, and the sun rays constantly hitting the camera as characters moved through the air created the feeling that we were watching a living world, concepts Invincible could learn from. An example of what I mean is shown by the artist Mupo Guy, who has demonstrated how small changes in lighting can make a big difference through his YouTube channel, which you can find in the link down below in the description. Without going too far, in Invincible vs. Alan, we get a short fragment lasting a couple of seconds that looks completely different from the rest of the series. It almost feels like a different production. Lines with different visual weight, dynamic lighting using gradients to create realism, and a lighting setup that perfectly matches the mood of the scene. That moment represents everything I've been talking about. With just a few changes in compositing, the series would look much more professional. So, if you take one piece of advice from this video, let it be this: compositing is everything. Along with that, there's the fact that the drawing is too flat and static. Productions like Ping Pong the Animation or Scavenger's Reign have shown the potential of unconventional animation that sacrifices symmetry and clean, thin lines to deliver a lively, exciting experience that connects more with the viewer. But here, the series is visually boring, a problem that's actually very common in American animation. This approach affected shows like Ben 10, for example. Despite being labeled as action, most fight sequences were completely static. This happens because in most American animation shows, the priority is clean drawings instead of expression and dynamism. Combined with a lack of interesting camera movement, it makes the show feel totally monotonous. If we compare it to the original Invincible comics, or at least the first half illustrated by Ryan Ottley, we can see exactly what I'm talking about. The lines and expressions aren't trying to look conventional and polished. Instead, they try to give the art visual weight to reflect power, dynamism, or intensity. The irregular lines created a unique visual identity that made the art stand out among other comic series. When you saw a panel like that, you immediately knew it came from Invincible. But now, the show looks generic and boring. However, when Invincible dares to use unconventional angles, like the scene where Debbie has a mental breakdown and the camera moves with her as she bangs on the doors, or when Omni-Man kills the Guardians of the Globe and the camera sits uncomfortably in front of Nolan's face, the series feels much more cinematic and exciting. Choosing different camera angles, like a low-angle shot or a close-up detail shot, makes a difference compared to the same boring wide shot every time. And what I'm describing is, as I said, also the storyboard team's job. See how everything is connected? So, in conclusion, Invincible could improve its animation a lot without needing to raise the budget too much. If the storyboard and cleanup teams kept a decent number of animators, especially for fight scenes, the series could deliver a much richer, more dynamic visual experience, with bolder and more interesting camera shots, and with stronger visual compositing. That could help it recover the identity it has already lost. But realistically, none of that will probably happen. Despite our concerns about quality, Amazon is more interested in maximizing profits than in maximizing the number of people who leave a good review on a YouTube video. And don't get me wrong, Invincible isn't cheap to make at all, but it costs much less than today's live-action superhero shows. And right now, the series is very profitable, even without investing a lot of money, always ranking high in popularity when each new episode premieres. If they can do that with the current budget, the most likely outcome is that the money they put in stays the same, or maybe even gets reduced now that they plan to release one season per year.
Before you go, leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think Invincible looks fine, or does the animation still feel cheap at times? If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.